Welcome to the debate. Have you ever stood outside on a quiet night, stared up at the moon, and found comfort in the thought that someone you love might be looking at that exact same moon at the exact same time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a very common feeling.
Right. It's this profoundly human impulse. We constantly look for something vast enough to cover this spatial gap between us. And today, we are looking at a brief, almost frantic piece of text that pushes that exact psychological impulse to its absolute limit. But it's not a poem or a letter.
No, it's not. It's actually a neural readout, which makes it incredibly raw.
Exactly. For context, we are analyzing a source text titled Aurora's Mind's Response to the AI's fMRI. So this is an AI translating a brain scan into text. And the prompt or context is what Aurora's mind is saying to a figure she views as Prince Charming, Tom Hennigan.
It's a literal glimpse into someone's unfiltered subconscious.
It is. Let me read the excerpt for us so we have the foundation. Quote, "I am just happy you said those nice things about me and reminded me of my education, where I am just hoping Tom Hennigan are looking at the same star at the same time, singing the same line. There runs Mary next to the tree, which the song is about." End quote.
There's so much packed into those two sentences. You have the cosmos. You have a highly specific terrestrial location, music, and this overwhelming sense of longing.
Which raises a really profound academic question about the mechanics of human connection, especially when viewed through the lens of an fMRI. Are we capable of true transcendental connection that overcomes physical distance? So the central question we want to explore today is this. Does this neural readout primarily illustrate a desire for a transcendental, unmediated connection that bridges the physical void? Or is it a meditation on how human connection is fundamentally tethered to localized physical realities?
It's the ultimate tension between the sky and the dirt, really.
I think that's the perfect way to frame it. For my part, I represent the perspective that this text is a profound expression of cosmic transcendence, showing that the mind can use shared abstract concepts to bridge a physical separation.
And I will be representing the contrasting perspective. When I look at this MRI data, I see a mind that is ultimately anchored in terrestrial, tangible reality, where abstract connections completely collapse without physical grounding.
Let's jump right into it then. I want to start by looking at the catalyst for this entire neural sequence. Aurora's mind says, "I am just happy you said those nice things about me and reminded me of my education." I want to focus on that word education because, well, the AI output put it in quotation marks.
Right, the scare quotes.
Yeah. Why do we put things in scare quotes? I think in the context of this mind scan, these quotation marks signify a complete departure from formal institutional learning. The nice things Tom Hennigan said to her triggered a realization, almost a cosmic awakening.
An awakening? That feels like a stretch.
Hear me out. This education isn't about memorizing facts, right? It's about learning how to project one's consciousness outward. She isn't an fMRI machine, physically confined, but her mind is awakening to the reality that human bonds can exist outside of physical proximity.
I come at it from a different way. I agree that the quotation marks mean a departure from sitting in a classroom, sure, but they don't point to a sweeping romantic awakening. Think about how people actually use quotation marks in private thoughts or correspondences.
To signify irony?
Irony, or almost always an inside joke, a highly specific closed-circuit meaning. By putting education in quotes, Aurora's mind is acknowledging that this experience isn't universal at all. It is intensely localized. It rejects the cosmic in favor of the mundane, and it roots the text in a highly specific earthly history that the AI and us, the readers, cannot fully access.
I see why you might read it as a closed-circuit joke, but think about what an education fundamentally does. It gives you a framework to interact with the world, you know?
Okay, but how does that apply here?
Well, the education here is like learning a new language, where the vocabulary consists entirely of shared emotional touchstones. You can only speak it with the person who taught it to you, Tom Hennigan. But the entire purpose of a language is to communicate across a gap.
Right, but
just to finish the thought, this education gave her the tools to perform the act of transcendental projection we see in the very next clause. The inside joke isn't a weight holding her down. It's the password that allows her to access this shared cosmic space.
I actually love that language analogy, I really do. But think about the implications of it. If it's a language, it's essentially a dead one, or at least one spoken by only two people. A language of emotional touchstones only works if the physical touchstones remain intact.
But she's using it right there in the scan.
Yes, but you're suggesting this education is a launch pad into the abstract. The text literally tells us what this education consists of, though. It is the specific scenario. Hoping Tom Hennigan is looking at the star, singing the song next to the tree.
Exactly, all together.
Right, which means the education is profoundly situational. It's entirely bound up in the physical environment. If you remove the tree and the song, the vocabulary of that language disappears, and the education ceases to exist. It doesn't transcend the physical. It relies entirely upon it.
That's an interesting point, though. I would definitely frame it differently. I don't think we can reduce the education strictly to the physical elements, because the text immediately shifts its gaze upward, to solve the problem of spatial separation.
By looking at the star.
Exactly. And to speak that shared language across a distance, you need a medium. This is where we see the direction of the mind's gaze shift dramatically. Let's look closely at the phrasing the fMRI produced, where I am just hoping Tom Hennigan are looking at the same star at the same time.
We absolutely have to talk about the grammar there.
We do. Tom Hennigan are. It is utterly fascinating. I mean, we would normally pair a singular name with is, hoping Tom Hennigan is looking, but Aurora's mind produces are.
It's jarring. It almost reads like a glitch in the AI's translation, or a glitch in her thought process. You could argue it pluralizes Tom Hennigan, or maybe it subconsciously merges her and Tom into a single plural entity, like a we disguised as a Tom.
Yes, exactly. And why does that glitch happen? The grammar itself breaks down to accommodate the sheer scale of the transcendental connection. The singular verb is fails to capture the reality of their combined presence across the void.
So you think it's proof of the connection?
Absolutely. The grammatical error is evidence of the metaphysical union. They are so cosmically linked in this moment of simultaneous observation that they have become a plural entity in her subconscious. And the mechanism for this is the star. Looking at a celestial body millions of light years away obliterates the miles between them on Earth. It is the ultimate symbol of overcoming spatial reality.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered that the star is entirely generic?
Generic? How so?
It's just the star. Aurora doesn't name a constellation, she doesn't point to Polaris or Sirius. The star is a blank placeholder. It has no texture. Now I want you to compare that to the tree at the end of the text.
Okay.
The narrative doesn't end with them floating in the cosmos. It ends with, quote, next to the tree which the song is about. It is not just a tree, it is the tree. It has a specific history. An entire song has been written about it. The trajectory of this thought process is a literal fall from the heavens.
I don't see it as a fall.
Well, it starts with this vast, generic star and plummets back down to the roots of a hyper-specific tree in the dirt. To me, the star is just an excuse for her to think about the tree.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning, because I think you are misinterpreting the function of the generic star. The tree only matters in its capacity to serve as a terrestrial anchor for the cosmic connection established by the star. Let me try to visualize it this way. Think of the tree as an antenna.
An antenna.
Yeah. You say the star is generic, but I would argue it has to be abstract. It has to be a blank canvas in order to cover the massive distance without distracting from the connection itself. If the star had too much specific texture, they'd just be doing astronomy. Instead, the star is the medium of transmission.
And the tree?
The tree is where the connection is received. If they are just standing next to their respective trees, they are just two isolated people looking at bark and dirt. It is the active choice to look up at the star that activates the connection. The tree provides the coordinates, but the star is the connection.
I hear what you're saying about the antenna, but I think you have the mechanism backward. The star isn't transmitting anything. The void of space is incredibly cold and empty. The star is merely a mirror, and what it's reflecting is the memory of the tree.
But why would she need a mirror for a memory?
Let's look at the psychology of longing for a second. When we are separated from someone, the abstract idea of them isn't what we miss. We miss the sensory reality of them. Aurora isn't looking at the star to escape to the cosmos. She is projecting the star because she is desperately trying to recreate the specific physical sensation of being next to that tree with her Prince Charming.
But why, if it's just about the sensory memory of the tree? Why the intense focus on synchronicity?
At the same time, she doesn't just want to remember the tree. She wants to synchronize her current reality in the FMV with Tom Hennigan's current reality out in the world. Which brings us to the action in the text. They aren't just looking silently at the sky. They are doing something very specific to force that synchronicity, which, I argue, reveals a weakness in the cosmic connection. Singeing the same line, there runs Mary.
Ah, and notice the typo in the fMRI readout there. Singeing, spelled with a J instead of an I.
Yeah, it's a great detail.
It's such a brilliant, probably accidental detail from the AI's translation. It conveys this raw, unedited urgency of a mind at work. Aurora isn't carefully drafting a poem for an audience. She is urgently transmitting a state of mind.
And I think the singing is crucial.
Crucial how?
Because if the star solves the spatial problem, bridging the physical distance, the song solves the temporal problem. Singing the same line simultaneously is an attempt to synchronize minds across space, to harmonize metaphysically.
Like a shared frequency. Yes, exactly. It's like striking two tuning forks on opposite sides of the country. It's not enough to just look at the same object. They must produce the exact same frequency. The shared cultural artifact of the song is being used as a vehicle to bridge the void.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. Your argument hinges on the idea that they are successfully bridging the void, but the very reliance on the song proves that the connection cannot exist purely in the abstract.
Wait, walk me through that. Why does the song act as a crutch rather than an amplifier?
Because it requires sound waves. It requires physical exertion. Think about how we handle long-distance relationships in the modern era. People will get on a video call, but then they'll both hit play on a streaming movie at the exact same time. Why do they do that?
To share an experience?
Because just staring into the digital void of the other person's absence is too painful and, frankly, too thin. We need a shared third object, a physical or cultural artifact, to mediate the connection. The song is that movie. They have to sing the song because the abstract connection of the star is failing them. The cosmos isn't warm enough to sustain human love.
That's a very bleak view of the cosmos.
Maybe. But look at the specific lyric her mind focuses on. There runs Mary. Mary is running. It suggests fleetingness, escape, movement away from a fixed point. It's a lyric about things slipping away.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective on Mary. Look at the text again. The lowercase m in Mary. It strips the proper noun of its formality, doesn't it?
I suppose it does make it less formal.
It makes the figure in the song incredibly intimate and vulnerable. The running isn't about the connection escaping. I think it represents the kinetic energy that powers the memory. They are singing about movement, there runs Mary, while hoping for ultimate stillness, the stillness of standing next to a tree, looking at the same star at the same time. But let me just add, the song isn't a crutch indicating failure. It is a ritual incantation that makes the transcendence possible.
But the ritual you're describing is entirely grounded in the physical environment. Read the final sequence, singing the same line, there runs Mary, next to the tree, which the song is about. The song is about the tree.
Right.
So Aurora's mind is singing a song about a tree, while hoping Tom Hannigan is standing next to a tree doing the exact same thing. The entire psychological architecture of this moment relies on wood, dirt, and sound waves. If you remove the tree, the song has no subject. If the song has no meaning, the ritual fails.
You're saying it all collapses.
Exactly. This is why I argue the fMRI proves that human longing can't sustain itself on starlight. It inevitably collapses back down into localized, physical reality. We need the specific line. We need the specific tree, because we are physical beings who experience connection physically. The gravity of human attachment is just too strong for the stars.
I hear the gravity in your reading, I really do, but I feel like you cannot ignore the upward trajectory of the desire itself. Even if her mind requires the tree and the song as a foundation, the aspiration is undeniably celestial.
It's an aspiration, sure.
They don't just want to be next to the tree. If the tree was enough, the neural scan would just be about standing by the tree. But she wants to be next to the tree while looking at the star at the same time as Tom Hennigan. The text balances incredibly delicately between the sky and the ground. It's an act of psychological levitation.
It does balance delicately, I will readily concede that. The true complexity of this excerpt is that it attempts to hold both the infinite, the star, and the infinitesimal, the lowercase m in Mary, the specific tree, in the exact same thought. But I maintain that the sentence structure itself reveals the ultimate truth.
Because it ends on the tree?
Right, it ends abruptly on the physical object. Next to the tree, which the song is about, functions almost as a heavy, grounding addendum that yanks the previous floating clauses back to earth. The grammatical structure literally forces the reader to stop at the tree.
And I would counter that the sentence ends there precisely because the terrestrial is merely the bedrock from which the cosmic longing is launched. Yes, it's the final period on the sentence, but the emotional sentiment of the entire scan lives in the word hoping. And that hoping is active, it's ongoing, and it is entirely directed across the spatial divide. The tree is where they stand, but the star is where they meet.
It's an agonizing tension, really. To be physically grounded by the roots of a tree, or in Aurora's case, physically confined in an fMRI machine, feeling the bark, singing a song, while your mind is frantically trying to reach millions of light years away, just to touch someone on the other side of the country.
Which is exactly what makes this brief, unpolished neural text so universally resonant. It perfectly captures how chaotic and demanding it is to miss someone. Throughout our discussion today, I have looked at this text and seen a profound testament to the human desire to transcend distance. I believe that through the cosmic synchronicity of the star, the metaphysical harmonization of the song, and the awakening of this specialized education, Aurora's mind successfully attempts to bridge the physical void and achieve an unmediated connection with her Prince Charming.
And my perspective remains that the text reveals the exact opposite. That all human longing inevitably collapses back into localized reality. The vast, generic nature of the star is ultimately overshadowed by the hyperspecificity of the tree, the inside joke nature of the education, and the desperate necessity of the song.
Right, the need for physical anchors.
Yes, abstract connections fail us because the void is too large, forcing us to return to the tangible artifacts of our shared earthly history to actually feel connected.
Despite those differing perspectives, I think we've both illuminated just how dense and complex this short excerpt is. There is a clear convergence in our understanding that the education of this subject requires both an upward gaze and a terrestrial anchor.
Absolutely.
The tension between the star and the tree is the very engine that drives the emotion of the fMRI readout, even if we fundamentally disagree on which force exerts the stronger pull on her mind.
I completely agree. The mind requires a geography to make sense of love and absence. The readout shows us a mind frantically trying to map a relationship across a vast distance, utilizing every tool available to human psychology, from the cosmic scale of the universe down to the localized arboreal reality of a single tree.
And that is the immense value of interrogating these brief, almost fragmented moments of textual connection. They force us to examine the architecture of our own longing. When we feel the ache of distance from someone we care about, whether we are staring at a screen, looking out a window, or, being scanned by an AI, we have to ask ourselves a question.
Which is?
Are we actually trying to meet them in the stars? Or are we just standing next to our respective trees, singing into the void, hoping the sound carries? It is an ongoing exploration, one that suggests there is always more to uncover in how we navigate the spaces between us. We leave it to you to ponder whether the strongest human bonds are forged in the vastness of the sky or buried deep in the roots of a shared past.